We'd like to begin this podcast by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging.
This episode of Talking Couch Potatoes is brought to you by Henry Houndwear, the brand that all the best dressed hounds are wearing. To find yours, go to henryhoundwear.com.au.
Hello, Maleficent. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Matthew. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. That was that was a sharp and curt reply. I'm not sure you
I
are
tried
good.
to sound happy.
Yeah, you put a chirpy tone on. I'm not buying it, frankly. But you've got a lot to do. There's a lot of things to do, frankly, isn't there, Mel? So it's no wonder that you come in here a little bit stressed out. But we'll de-stressify you, Mel.
Thanks. Thanks, mate. I can always rely on you.
Thank you. Episode 60.
I know, right? This is why I'm cranky and old.
We didn't want to turn 60.
Not with you.
Yes, and you're wearing I love your new shirt, Mel. Woman of a certain rage.
Yes.
Brilliant.
I have a lot of menopausal rage.
Yeah, right.
Going on.
Yeah. And we're a podcast of a certain rage.
Yes.
Because we're raging about stuff we don't like and trying to change it, and we just turned 60. So don't let us get too much older, please, listeners. Please, WA public, government. We want to die. Let us die. This life is a struggle for us. It's not a joyous celebration. The celebration will be when we're dead and the greyhounds aren't.
Exactly.
Is that a fair call?
Absolutely.
Anyway, welcome to episode 60, everyone. Oh, sorry, I got the giggles.
Yes.
What's going on, Mel? What's happening?
Okay, so this weekend we have the Sydney Animal Rights Forum at the Masonic Centre, and a group of the committee from Free the Hounds is attending that. And we do hear that there is going to be a pro-racing protest outside the Masonic Hall.
Really?
Yeah, well, as far as we've been informed. So that will be...
the activist grapevine?
Well, actually, we were tipped off by a pro. Thanks very much.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah,
they can do good things down there.
I know, right? So, speaking of peaceful protests,
yes,
we had our first one at Mandurah on the 7th of February.
Yeah, because you've done quite a few at Cannington. I've been there. Huge turnout at Cannington. Yep. How did the Mandurah one go? I couldn't make it down there.
We had 35 people turn up, which was it was a couple of days notice, and it was on a Friday evening. It took a few of us 2 hours to get there with the Friday traffic. It's pretty full on.
Oh, that's commitment.
It was good. It was good. I was really dismayed seeing the number of people drive in, especially families. But I think what I believe to be the reason is that they go there for the food, for the cheap food. I don't know that it's so much about watching the races.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I don't know. Again, we would love to have a pro racer on to chat about it, to discuss this with us. Fortunately, all the dogs made it home safe. We got a lot of support from the people driving by on the highway. It's always good to know that there's people that don't agree with it.
Yeah. Well, big shout out to the people who took their time and energy and efforts to get all the way down there. Again, a peak hour on a Friday to stand up and make a sound for those who can't make a sound for themselves.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was great.
Awesome.
So thanks to our supporters. Another thing that's been in the news lately, that there was a closure of the Cannington track.
Yep.
It was only while a review was taking place. So samples of the track were sent over to Victoria, and then Racing and Wagering were deciding how soon or what needed to be done to it in order to bring it up.
And that was on the back of a series of deaths and injuries within a week or so of each other, wasn't it?
No, it was just over a month. There was the 3 dogs that died in the one meet on the 17th of December.
Yeah.
So they ran all the races, even though that vet had to put down 3 dogs on that night. How you ever recover from that, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then go back to work at the track, beyond me. It was the 26th of January, and the stewards decided to stop racing after the 4th incident.
Yeah, it takes them a bit. It takes a bit to rattle them, doesn't it?
But it's unusual, though, that only 2 dogs died at this race meeting, but 4 major injuries. So we figure that 4 is the magic number.
Really? Okay.
Must be.
Yeah.
4 major injuries in a race meet, whether there's death or what involved.
Well, the other thing, Mel, but correct me if I'm wrong, they just moved the races to Mandurah, didn't they? They didn't.
That's right.
Yeah. And then what happened at Mandurah not long after that? Wasn't
it was
there?
2 nights after.
2 nights later, there was what?
A death and a broken leg.
Yeah. So I don't know what level of injury and death is going to move these people to realise that there might not be a safe way to race these dogs. What level of evidence do we need of repetitious injury and death regardless of the track you put it on. Cannington was rated as safe on the night.
Yes.
I believe in 2024 there was $3 million spent on safety upgrades.
That's right.
And the dogs are dying.
There's been more death. That's also because the injury scheme has been cut.
Yeah. So they're just, rather than fixing them up, they're just knocking them on the head. But my point is, like, at what level of evidence do those who are in favour of this?
They don't because they accept it.
That's
that's what the story tells.
Part of the game.
Exactly.
So you're either ignorant of this is happening, or you're aware of it and you're willing to tolerate it.
That's what they are.
And
how could it be any other way?
I don't know. It baffles me sometimes. How they can continue to justify these beautiful creatures getting injured and killed all the time, just so we can chuck a bet on them, mate.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else is going on, Mel?
Okay, so we have our first segment, our new segment.
Is it a new segment?
Yes, the first one.
Even at the age of 60, Mel, you can evolve and grow and develop new skills and add to your repertoire.
That's right. We're always evolving.
What is it, Mel?
Okay, so it's the Foster of the Fortnight.
I'm sure Jem will put a sound effect in there.
Let's hope.
Foster of the Fortnight.
Because that was a really lousy. Okay.
Yeah, so the Foster of the Fortnight, that means these are beautiful creatures that are available for people if they want to have a beautiful hound in their house.
That's right. Available for adoption.
And we're going to do this regularly, aren't we, Mel?
Every podcast.
Yep.
So this dog, Huey, is available through Greyhound Adoptions WA.
Huey.
He has been in foster care for 2 years, so he really wants a home. This is from his foster carer. Huey has been in foster care for 2 years. He is a stunningly handsome boy with a very unique dark brindle coat, which has become a bit grey around the muzzle.
Yeah.
Huey is loved by everyone that meets him. He's not shy about asking for a pat and is happy to lean into people while he gets attention. Huey is 8 in April, but he remains young at heart. He loves nothing more than playing with his squeaky toys, his favourite being a red squid. This is the toy he likes to greet you with if you have been out. Huey thrives in the company of other greyhounds. He currently lives with a small black greyhound named Poppy. He loves catching up with his many friends for walks. He also is happy having other greyhounds come to stay and stays with other greyhounds when his family go away on holiday. He's very photogenic and has featured in a couple of photo shoots, and he's the face of February for the Gawa calendar. He has been waiting patiently for that right family to come along. If you're looking for a beautiful, gentle giant who loves human and greyhound companions, he is the boy for you.
Oh, Huey.
Yes.
And he's by the way, my 2 babies are black. I love the black hounds. But Brindle's kind of a pretty cool vibe.
He's very handsome.
Yeah.
And I did ask about whether or not he's okay on his own. The thing is he's always been with another greyhound, so they're really not certain.
Ooh.
But they do feel that perhaps his size, because he is on the bigger size.
Yep, big boy.
However, he is happy to just sort of go off on his own and sit and play. So if you've got another greyhound, he would be great.
And the other thing about being 8 years old, imagine giving him the best last few years of his life. And what a gift you would give Huey to say, we're going to give you a forever home. It'd be beautiful, wouldn't it?
For sure.
Yeah.
And he is a lovely dog. We've actually had his foster human on the show before, Luca, one of our the kids that we've had on.
Oh, Luca. G'day, Luca.
Yeah.
I see Luca around. He goes to all the events still.
Yeah, that's right.
Hi, Luca.
He was at the protest, actually, at Mandurah.
He was at the art show. I saw him at the art show.
Yeah, he's a well-loved, beautiful boy. So if you do have a home for Huey, please do reach out to Greyhound Adoptions WA. They're on social media and they have a website, so and you can put in an application. Yeah.
And he's the dog of the month. Isn't he the February Gower dog? Did you say?
In their calendar.
Yeah, calendar boy.
Absolutely, a pin-up.
Yeah, get in touch. All right, Mel, we've got to stop waffling on, I reckon, because we've got another amazing guest. We've got Dr. Liam Clay today. He's a doctor. You get to talk to a doctor, mate. All right, I'll tell you all about him soon.
Okay.
It's that time, Mel, another amazing guest with a very particular knowledge and a very particular expertise that I'm really keen on hearing about.
Yeah, it's exciting.
We've got Dr. Liam Clay. So Liam is a PhD qualified canine behaviour consultant and trainer. He works across behaviour assessment, behaviour modification, welfare and transition support for dogs, including greyhounds, of course. Liam is the director of AABA Consultants and Future Dog Training Academy, which is a training / daycare program and behaviour support. Liam is passionate about evidence-based behaviour change, emotional regulation, and setting dogs up to succeed in the home environment. That sounds like something greyhounds particularly need, Mel.
That's right, yeah. I actually took my 2 girls there for an assessment, Gina and Anna, and just watching the process during that time and seeing how having somebody that knows what they're doing, working with your dog is just,
A PhD, no less, Mel. We're not talking about he went to TAFE for a year or so.
Hey, not that there's
I'm
anything
not
wrong with
saying,
that.
mate, my kid went to TAFE, but I wouldn't call her Dr. Kid. Anyway, he's with us now, and I'm happy to speak to him. Hello, Liam. How are you?
Pleasure to meet you. Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for coming, Liam. This is great.
Awesome. I'm going to get straight off the bat. You have, as I mentioned earlier, Liam, quite a unique expertise. Just for those who may be the layman out there, tell us a bit about what it actually means. I've mentioned all these buzzwords, but what does it mean, what you do?
So a little bit about what I do is pretty much we look and identify behavioural dispositions, so cues and categories, and look at the disposition of a dog, whether it's in a shelter, whether it's in a home, and we look at their stable behaviour, and then from that we look at whether they're emotionally regulating or non-emotionally regulating, and we give advice on and help with therapy on whether they have a behavioural problem or not, and whether they're like a low severity case or high severity case. And we also educate veterinary sector on behavior identification, behavior handling, and there's a lot of things that we do differently compared to most people. We're all over the board. We educate people, we educate the industry, and we try to create a paradigm shift as well within the industry. And
so you work individually and systemically?
Correct, yes. Yeah. And it's really nice when myself and my business partner, Tara, work together and we educate and try to create this paradigm shift to make sure that those dogs that are coming from a shelter background or even greyhound background can transition appropriately to homes. And how can we do that? And how can we set up the greyhound but also the owner? And then if anything pops up behavior problem wise, what can we do to fix that problem for the animal and create emotional regulation? Yeah. And we do that by behavior therapy, but it's also about industry education as well. And how can we upskill and teach staff members, people in the industry to handle, identify, and also put the animal first.
Yeah, right. I want to ask you a lot more about greyhounds in particular, obviously.
Go for it.
But before I do that, you mentioned, I think you said stable behaviour or baseline behaviour or something like that. As a novice and a layman around dogs, I'm guessing the behaviour for different breeds of dogs will be different. So you'd have to know a lot about what different types of dogs should be doing. Is that fair to say?
So that's correct. We deal with a lot of dogs and a lot of different breeds. And greyhounds are one particular case that was very hard to learn at the start.
Yeah, because they're very special.
They are very special. They're unique. And even in their play and even their emotional regulation, how they interact with humans, how they interact with other dogs is completely different to other dogs.
Right.
And we found that along the way, just anecdotal data on the greyhounds. And even when we're trying to treat them and assess them, what is their baseline and what is their emotional regulation? Because most of the time they mask a lot and it's very hard to see when they are not okay. Yes.
Okay, interesting, yeah.
Is that, do you think, because they have been a breed that hasn't been open to study is a horrible word, but to learn about due to the fact that they've in a
very niche
environment, and it has been only like the last 10 years that they've come out into the public more. So you can see that, whereas other breeds have been around for longer as companions.
Correct.
So there's a lot more data on those.
Yeah, there's a lot more data on them, and it's very difficult to find behavioural data on the greyhounds, which is actual quantifiable, because a lot of it was just physiological studies. And over time, there will be more data on it. And it's very difficult to get behavioural data from greyhounds because of their exposure on when they were younger and their socialisation periods. So depending on how they were socialised and how they were integrated into social interactions with humans and dogs depends on what they're displaying behaviourally. And they become like a little bit special as we know them for.
Yeah. So maybe a part of what, Mel, I'm picking up in your question is it's an artifact of the fact that they were used for a very specific niche purpose. They were just trained to behave, to run fast, and that's it.
Yeah.
So the sort of the level of information and evidence you have is pretty narrow, I would imagine.
Correct. And you see that with greyhounds that have been brought up around other dogs that haven't come from a racing background, which is there's minimal greyhounds that have. But the more exposure that they have to humans and different breeds of dogs, the more their behavioural repertoire starts to change and go back to a normal dog.
Right.
And you'll see play bows, you'll see displacement behaviours, you'll see all the right contexts of cues and categories that you should be seeing in an animal, but they've just never been exposed to it. And there's different research on that in the human aspect that we can transpose into the animal aspect, and that's what actually happens, but that's off topic.
That's another podcast.
Yeah.
I just want to jump all over that for a second, Mel, because that warms my heart, because a lot of the arguments we get from the pro racers is this is their purpose, this is what they do, and actually what you're saying is no, they have within them the capacity to have a full repertoire of behaviours like other companion animals. They're just not given the opportunity. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So there are situations where greyhounds are exposed to different animals, different breeds, and the behavioural repertoire and the ability of that animal to grow and thrive and emotionally regulate is there. It's the ability of us as humans to give those opportunities.
Damn straight.
Which is, it's good to see when you see it. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Because I've just read, I'm a bit hepped up on this one, Mel, because I read a post.
That's unusual.
I read a post just recently about a pro came in and said, "Are you crazy having these as pets? They're designed to be they'll be chasing cats and they'll be killing cats and they need this and they need big energy bursts of liver." And actually, what the evidence says is no. That's when we target them in that particular direction, they'll exhibit those behaviours. When we broaden their sort of behavioural experiences and their relational experiences, they do have the capacity to not be that and to be something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Surely the fact that they need a trainer in and of itself indicates that they need to learn something of what they are intended for when they're bred into racing.
Yeah.
So it can't be that innate really if it
requires repetitive training.
If all they need to do is chase when they're born, then surely they just do that automatically. We have one in our community here that was come over from Victoria as a puppy and has never been involved. And you were talking about play bows, and he looks very much like other greyhounds, but his demeanour is so different. Digby, he's just he's another. It's just
adorable.
Yeah, he's a big goof.
Yeah.
But it's lovely to see. And they have all those normal dog behaviours.
Yeah. I think they have a point that the racing line or predispositions or nature will probably become extinct, and they'll become more of a companion disposition, and perhaps even body shape might change because of that. Would that be fair to say?
Correct. So once they socialize back in and they domesticate for the companion animal side, you start to see those behavioral dispositions come back pretty quickly. And then what we're trying to train in and the physiological aspect and the race or the instinct to chase will start to diminish, and you'll start to see phenotypes and genotypes start to evolve over time, and that'll change over a few generations. But the disposition for the behavior will start to come back pretty fast, and you'll start to see behavioral problems fluctuate up and down, and that's okay, that's normal when there's a transition in a paradigm. But it's the ability to go, cool, how can we hone that? How can we just transition them as best as possible? Yes, they may change in disposition, but that's okay. Yes, the line of chasing will start to diminish, and yes, they will still run around like lunatics. They will still chase and want to play.
Yeah.
And the main driver from that chase and the way they train it as well is actually nothing to do with, most of the time, is nothing to do with the predatory drive or anything like that. It's just to do with movement and tracking and then self-reinforcement and conditioning. And once we have that, we can still use it and we can still have fun with these animals and these greyhounds to play and engage with toys and balls and have a fulfilling life as a companion. And we just really don't need that massive change to occur, and it's not going to create a major negative disposition for anyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that if, say, mechanical lure chasing never came in and we continue to have greyhounds as part of a family, would that just naturally go away or leave the breed?
That's a really good question. It just depends on the domestication process and the socialization process and how they adapt over time. Yes, we've started using these animals for that purpose, and then their morphology and disposition has changed, and that may have gone and put them on a different path. And we'll never know what path that is until we move them away.
Yep.
And we see it in different breeds as well, working breeds for Border Collies, and then we're trying to transition them to companion animals. There's a fluctuation up and down with behavioural problems and disposition, but eventually when they start to become a companion, not a working breed, they start to change and adapt.
Yep.
And that is okay, and that's what's going to happen with greyhounds as well, is things will change in a positive manner. And sometimes we can give over love.
Yes.
Us as humans will love our animals unconditionally, and we will sometimes cause certain problems, and that is okay. And that's what we're all there to help with as a professional in the industry. And with the greyhounds, that's going to happen as well. And their morphology, yes, will change, and their body may change and adapt over time, but it's okay.
Yeah, and they'll still have that sleek greyhound shape.
Yeah.
They're not going to turn into a poodle all of a sudden or whatever.
Sausage dog.
And you've worked extensively with greyhounds, Liam. What makes them, you've spoken a little bit to this already, but in your experience, what's the sort of key aspects that really separates them from other breeds?
That is, from a behavioural perspective, it's interesting because we have this discussion a lot when we interact and do behavioural assessments and behaviour therapy on greyhounds. They're very awkward in social situations.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
They don't know what to do and how to interact. They want interaction, but they're a bit hesitant in the process.
This is why I love greyhounds. That's me.
They're like me.
That's me in a nutshell, mate.
And like when you put them in a social situation with other dogs, a lot of normal dogs and dogs that are companion animals will displace appropriately. They will appease the situation in social interaction and roll over. But with greyhounds, they don't really know how to interact socially and appease, and what we call passive or inhibition, passive or active. And it's like when a dog will go up to another dog and lick their face or roll over, they're appeasing the situation and they're interacting in the social communication. Greyhounds are really bad at that. They're like, I don't know what you want, so I'm just going to stand here, stare at you.
And look at you with one beady eyes.
And then they stick their snout into the dog and the dog freaks out.
Right.
They're
socially awkward.
Socially awkward, yes.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious to see. But
That's what I love about them a little bit, even more though, sorry.
And that won't diminish. Their appeasement behaviours and most of their natural behaviours will start to come back. But they're awkward. And they're lanky and they don't know how to interact in social situations. I understand that. I'm a bit the same. They have spurts of excitement and arousal, and you may find a hyper or a hypo greyhound, like a one that's just, I don't care, I'm not going to do anything, or a hyper greyhound that's a bit more hyperactive interactions and then will just crash. Yeah. We have one greyhound that's at a facility in the daycare, and she's about 6 or 7. I've known her for quite a while now, and she socializes with other dogs. She play bows with other dogs, and she has not stopped, even though she's a lot older. She's beautiful, and she's a character, and she revs all the dogs up. And her play style is very intense. Yeah. And a lot of greyhounds are a little bit intense in their play style, and then some dogs will take that a bit more on the back foot.
Yeah, they look weird and they act weird.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, which is why we love them.
It's almost like they're all or nothing.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any in between with greyhounds.
Yeah.
And that's what may change when they start to fully transition to becoming a companion animal rather than what they are. You may start to see that gap start to broaden back to normal, and you may get a few hyper and hypo ones, but they may go back to that normal disposition. Yeah. But that time will tell, I guess.
Mm-mm.
And I think what won't change, I imagine, is they've got massive chests for a big heart. And I've always thought, the racers think that the big heart is so they can pump blood and run fast. Someone said the other day, and I agree, it's because they've got so much love to give. They are so loving and so gentle in their nature. I imagine that will largely be retained in the breed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that aspect of social interaction and the ability to want that companionship is always going to be there. And yes, they're going to be a massive, heavy log on your couch most of the time. And then you sometimes may be pulled down the street, or you won't be able to get them back with recall. But that aspect of social engagement and that human-animal bond with them will always be there.
Yeah, awesome.
Do you find that there are breeds that are definitely more loving to humans or more companionable with humans and then there's those that are much more aloof?
Yes.
As a
spectrum
general rule?
kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's more of a spectrum. We'll see that with certain breeds that they'll attach more quickly to certain individuals. Other breeds like your Alaskan breeds, Malamutes and Huskies, they will be on the back foot for a very long time, but as soon as you get their companionship and the human-animal bond starts to occur, they're latched on.
Right.
Greyhounds are, you're present here and we're coexisting until you're not coexisting and you're having a greyhound on your lap.
Yeah.
Or that relationship where they're on the couch and then they come up and they're like, I'm here now and you're here, so we're not leaving.
Yeah. Or you're in my spot, so move.
Yeah.
Or,
And they'll just sit there and stare at you until you do, and you're like, okay, I'll leave.
Yeah, you know them so well.
They're the most passive, like passive aggressive, but they just nail the passive part, right?
Yes.
So you don't even notice the aggressive.
No.
It's just
You're like, what are you saying right now? And you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go, and you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, yep, leave me alone.
Yeah, you read me. So you've spoken about, I guess, a lot about the particular needs and proclivities of greyhounds, and we have, praise the Lord, we don't knock them on the head anymore. We've forced the industry, and they didn't do it voluntarily, Mel, right? We forced the industry to say,
that's
no.
I won't take credit for it. Free the Hounds won't take credit for it.
Yeah.
But whatever shift occurred, it was what needed to happen, and we're glad that it happened.
Well, I know that in my dad's day when he was a lad, it was rife. A greyhound didn't perform. It's knocked on the head. Simple as that. Now they've bought the modern era, they're rehomed, and that's a wonderful thing because now we get to understand them and interact with them and get to know them as companions, which is shifting the whole perspective, I think, of how they're viewed. But that comes with issues as well, Liam. What advice would you give, particularly to greyhounds, that people might need to know if they want to take a hound into their home?
I guess it's understanding their background. I can't remember whether I published this or not, or whether it was just a document that I wrote. And it was looking at how greyhounds socialized and developed for their first year and a half, 2 years, because most of the greyhounds that are adopted out are a year and a half, 2 years of age. So you look at prospectively the first year and a half of their life and how that all happened and who they socialize with and how they socialize, and different trainers will socialize them in different manners, and some will be better than others. And most of the time when they are adapting over time, they were housed together with the different siblings, and then they were separated into males and females and kenneled together. And then after that, they would go out into those groups, into the yards, and they would just run around and do their own thing, and then they'll come back in. So it was very regimented and structured. And because of this, when we're transitioning from that life, which has been going for a year and a half and it hasn't changed, and we try to adapt them to the life of a companion in a home, they're still a year and a half behind everyone. So they're stunted in their socialization. Right. And because of that, we have to work a lot slower. And I don't know whether you know the aspect of the 3-3-3 rule. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. With the greyhounds, what we found anecdotally is that it's a lot longer than that.
Right.
Just because of how much they've been in that structured and regimented time frame of what they were doing.
Yep.
And then if they were never socialized or interacted in a home manner, some trainers do take them into their homes and allow them to interact with family and children and all that.
Maybe the smaller hobby trainers, perhaps.
Yeah. So there's a niche area that do.
Yep.
And a lot of their dogs are okay, but they still have their own issues up and down.
Yeah.
But what we normally find is, okay, your 3 days is normally 3 weeks. So you times it a little bit more. So it's instead of the greyhound or a dog that you get from a rescue that's stable, I'll put that
in quotes.
In quotes. That is completely stable, emotionally regulating. 3 days, they start to transition to the home pretty well. With greyhounds, that 3 days is more 3 weeks.
Yeah,
they're like, okay, I'm just going to coexist with you and we're going to work around each other rather than adapting that human-animal bond.
You know what's coming to mind, Liam, and this might be hyperbolic, is almost like a human that's been in prison for a while, or they've been to maybe war and the vet comes back from war.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's how do you reintegrate into a social setting, into a social norm, into society?
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to put onto the greyhound. If it wasn't a companion in the first year and a half of its life, how do we then transition it to a companion as effectively and efficiently as possible?
Right.
And that takes a little bit longer. And we find that when we get greyhounds with issues that are possessive of their food or a little bit resource guarding, and they're possessive of their safe area in the house as well. And we saw that it will pick up dramatically because they've gone from nothing to everything and they've lived by themselves. And now they're together with someone in their environment and they're used to not sharing that.
Yep.
And after those 3 weeks, and they start to pick up again, and you'll start to see behavioural problems normally happen between 2 to 3 months. And then after 6 months, you've got a relatively stable dog, as long as the greyhound is stable. If it has a behavioural problem, it takes a lot longer.
Yeah, right. And we've had a couple of really good interviews with hounds that have been very difficult to work with. We did one not long ago. I don't know if you listened to the podcast. If you don't, I'm very disappointed. It's Simba's story we did not long ago.
And we've had a few at our facility at Future Proof Training Academy that were a lot longer. And we've had greyhounds that we worked with for, it would have been a year and a half.
Wow.
And it was just getting him to that point. And he was a beautiful greyhound, but just shut down and just shaking, and he was terrified of life. And he was in another house with a few more greyhounds, and the owners were absolutely beautiful, and they just helped him so much. And we got him to a point where he was stable, he was engaging socially with the other dogs, and then that quirkiness came out. And it's beautiful to see. And on that note, it wasn't all my part, it was my business partner Tara that pushed so much with the greyhounds, because she's really good with all the greyhounds. And it's good to see how we can transition them, even though they're so far gone. How can we get them to the point of, okay, they're emotionally stable, they're emotionally regulating, and they're okay?
I'm really glad you mentioned that point, because I wanted to underline it's worth the effort, isn't it? You know, what these creatures give back to you if you will give them the time and effort and love that they need.
Yeah. Can I just ask, there's 2 questions
Go for
that
it.
I've been thinking of. One of them is, what could our listeners, I guess, you know, what are the signs after that? You've waited 3 weeks, you've waited 3 months. What are the signs that they should look out for, possibly, that you do need more help, that your dog is possibly more unstable or can't regulate like it possibly should be doing by that point of time?
Okay.
What are the big
Red flags.
The red flags, probably actively avoidant of situations, in social situations. Their social tolerance, or the human-animal bond, seems to be a little bit harder to get than normal. They're not wanting to engage with you. They're shut down. Your possessiveness of locations like bedding area or food starts to increase. Possession normally occurs due to a active coping regulation. So something in the internal environment's creating fear or instability. So the animal starts to pick up, and it starts to gravitate towards those things that are safe. If they're shut down on walks, if they're excessively shaking, if they're unable to fully sleep and calm down, and they're constantly wandering around. And the major one that we find with greyhounds is hyperattachment. So they're excessively seeking you out, and they cannot cope when they're not by themselves, or even if you're in a different room, they're constantly seeking you out. You can't go to the toilet by yourself, and it seems very excessive. Mm-hmm. Some of that stuff is a spectrum, so it's within a norm. But
would that apply to husbands?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
just to check.
No, that just makes you a weirdo.
I'm starting to worry.
Knocking at doors. What are you doing?
Yeah, following him to the toilet. Yeah. Can't be left at home alone.
But if they do that, you're saying, because my girl follows me to the toilet, but she couldn't care less if I go out. So
correct.
That's okay?
Yeah, that's okay. It's a spectrum. So they can follow you around.
Yeah.
But we normally see this with rescue dogs from shelters a lot, because they have become socially isolated, and then they've started to create a new bond, and that bond becomes then excessive because the isolation before.
Is you terrified it's going to go away again?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the greyhounds will do that, some won't, but it just depends on the individual.
Yeah.
And if you've got some of these issues, Liam, I've heard of a very good organisation
that
my friend put me onto called Future Proof Training. What kind of stuff could you do? How can you help? Can you let our listeners know? Because this is fairly common within the rehoming, the adopting space. Is, of course, these dogs are coming from a largely trauma-based, but certainly a very narrow socialisation base. So a lot of our listeners might want to know, how can you help?
So there's many ways we can help. Normally within that first 3 weeks, we tell the owner to not do anything with the greyhound. Just don't do anything. We want to create stability within the home, and we need structure and routine within the home, because they thrive on structure and routine.
Yep.
So you want to do as much structure and routine in the home to create a safe place and a safe environment for them. And then after that, we want slow incremental bits of socialization. What we find that the problem is we over-socialize because they've never had it. But what we need to do instead is, because they've never had it, we need to incrementally add it once they are safe in their home environment.
That's great. So we come in with the big hearts and the best of intentions, saying, I'm going to love you so much, and I'm going to take you to the park, and I'm going to get you toys. And they're going, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly.
It's almost like giving them an injection of adrenaline, surely,
Correct.
or something that just sends them off.
Yeah, you're freaking me out, man.
Yes.
And that's why they either go shut down or they go excessively hyperactive.
Right.
And then they start fixating on things when you're on the walk and they've never been on a full walk in a setting which is a cafe. And we take them for walks with their other greyhounds, but all the other greyhounds are picking them up and that greyhound doesn't know what to do. And they're either shut down or behind the pack or they're at the front going, let's go, like a hyperactive.
That's what my girl used to do. She had to be at the front.
Yeah.
She'd rip me through the crowd to get to the front of the walk.
Because she's just going, let's go. I don't know what's happening. Let's just continue.
Let's do something now.
Yeah. So normally when we talk to greyhound owners that are trying to transition a new greyhound is structure the home, create a safe place for them to go. Don't touch them in that area because they've never been touched or handled in that safe place. Feed them in their own area, and then incrementally over time you add little bits of adjustment.
It feels like what the common thread that I'm hearing from you is the word time. That greyhounds just need a little more time than your average doggy.
And that's probably the biggest thing is with emotional regulation, the key aspect to that is recovery.
Yep.
With anything, once you've had a traumatic situation or a phobic reaction, you need to recover from that. And you need to then compartmentalize, decompress, and regulate. And they've gone from such a structured routine regiment to a new home with new people and possibly children or even cats and coexisting with so many factors, and they're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Again, that metaphor of someone coming out from solitary confinement or a high security prison, and then you've gone, okay, out you go, and just let them out the gate into society, into there's cafes and streets and shops and people interacting, and this dude's going, I don't know how to do this yet.
Yeah. And it's similar principle to if you've lived in a small country town and you've gone to the big city. You're like, this is way too overwhelming. There's too many sounds, too many movements, too many things going on, and I can't cope. And you just try to either push through or you use different things to cope.
Right.
And those then become negative coping and then behavior problems.
Yeah. This has been
so interesting.
Absolutely fascinating.
I'm staring at you, and it's not because of the way you look. It's because I'm listening to it.
Just sucking it up, Mel.
It is.
Yeah.
And you've told me all this before, but just to hear it again. But I will say it is so much like I have an adopted child from Ethiopia, and this is all the stuff that we learnt about. Rein it in to start with. You have to make your home the base foundation first.
Yeah, safety.
And don't even take them out
for
the first month. Don't take them out. Give them routine in the house. Let them know that they're safe. And a few times we took him out and he went nuts. Like he made himself physically ill from overeating at a smorgasbord because he hadn't seen food like that laid out ever. And here's us thinking, oh, this is going to be so much fun for him. Yeah, it wasn't picking up puke for, but you just don't realise.
It's that developmental relationship. It starts, you increase complexity as you go, incremental change in challenging the relationship. But you start, the baseline is small, just going to make it safe. Safe, that's it. Yeah.
But it comes from that place of wanting to make up for what you imagine, which is not right, I know, in my situation anyway, making up for what you think that they've lost or have missed out on. Yeah. And because I think if you come from a rescue or anti-racing stance, I think you feel you are doing them a real service in rescuing them from this terrible thing. And that aside, I think that adds to it.
Correct.
In some ways, and that's like what you're saying about people being good parents or just too much.
It's the pull to do too much.
Yeah. So I think it's always back to humans, isn't it?
It's stupid humans.
Yeah, I know,
it's
right?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one because we want to balance. We want to give them so much, but we also want to create structure routine. We want to be good greyhound parents.
Yeah.
And we want to give them everything that they have never had. And we see it no matter whether it's a greyhound, whether it's another rescue or one that's just been shut down. We want to do the best by them, and the best parents are the ones that let's just go at it slow.
Yeah.
Slow.
Patience.
Yeah.
Patience. Yeah. Patience is key.
Brilliant.
We've got time. We just need to slow down.
Correct. Yeah. You've got plenty of time.
That's what Gemma said to me on honeymoon.
That's gross.
You did have another question. Did you?
I can't remember what it was.
I've got one for you.
Yes.
Look, again, just fascinating, the whole stuff. This might be a tough one because clearly your knowledge is very broad and very deep. But what do you reckon is the most misunderstood thing? Firstly, about dog behaviour in general, but I'd like maybe about greyhounds specifically as well, if you've got any thoughts.
that, this is a really interesting question. Probably that it's a social spectrum. It's a relationship and a human-animal bond. And that's probably that is the one thing that gets misunderstood is it's nothing to do with who's an alpha, who's the dominant, who's controlling the situation, but it's a relationship, and it's what we kind of map out in regards to behavior and social interactions, and similar to social hierarchy is there's interactions between one individual and the next, and that's between you and your dog, okay? And that is a human-animal bond, and that's a social spectrum. Then once you add a second individual to that, then that becomes a dynamic. And then you have a social dynamic that is happening. And that social relationship between human-animal or a dog-dog or a dog-cat will fluctuate up and down. And that's okay. There's no one person that's more or less than the other. And yes, one has a higher relationship and that animal will listen to that individual more. But as you grow that group, that will change over time and that will strengthen or weaken. And that just depends on what you do. And that strength or weakness will then have a lasting effect on the cognition or emotion.
Yeah.
So it's more of a social dynamic.
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is that there's not a prescription or an equation. It's actually relational. So the way that you interact in that dynamic could change the overall trajectory.
Correct. And that's probably the hardest thing is I do a lot of statistics and I'm a statistician on the research side of things, and it's trying to figure out an equation or some kind of equation to quantify that. And it's very hard to because there's too many variables in play. The relationship between two individuals will be dynamic and change over time depending on the situations, the memories, the positives, the negatives, how they're coping, everything like that. And it's wonderful and beautiful, but that can deteriorate so fast depending on those relationships and what they've been through and how that is creating a negative effect, which then creates behavioral problems later down the track. And that's the same with humans. And it's interesting to see how that changes in relation to greyhounds, because the greyhounds itself have never had it or have had it in different situations, whether it's human animal or dog, and that changes over time. And the more you expose them in the right situations with adequate recovery and create human animal bond, the better that they become and the more that they thrive.
Yep. Brilliant. As you were speaking, I was thinking again about the contrast between maybe how the racing industry sees these beautiful creatures and maybe how we see them. And on the one hand, it seems like they're sort of automatic dumb machines that have that equation. Do this, they'll go faster. And on the other hand, what you're describing is unique, sentient, intelligent beings with personalities that can be affected by other personalities. Is that fair?
Yeah. And that's probably the best way to describe it is the more that they have a rich social setting, once they are stable and safe, and the more we can incrementally do that over time, the more that social tolerance will increase and the more the social interactions will thrive and grow. And that starts with just you and your greyhound.
Yeah.
We focus on everything external, as you said. Like we're focused on giving them all the external things like social interaction with other dogs, cafes and all those kind of things when we need to focus on just us.
Right.
Do you, in your opinion, if they were given more socialisation as pups in kennels, would they be as good at racing if they were given all of the opportunities as a
But that would take more time and effort and energy.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct. So that's probably the hardest thing is once you add that social aspect of interactions with humans and toys and other dogs and social dynamics, those motivations will fluctuate up and down. We're so focused on reinforcing such a high drive for that motivation to do and over again like an athlete, it gets to a point where everything else kind of drops. As soon as you start to enrich them, they find different things that do motivate them. And that's probably the hardest thing when you're training a greyhound is finding their motivation.
Right.
Once you find their motivation, they're like, okay, and that comes back down to why so many get rehomed as well, is because they can't race or they're not good at racing, is because the motivation of the individual is either hindered because they're not emotionally regulating or they're just not motivated to do that desired outcome. And that's okay. But what do we need to do to motivate them to enrich them and socially interact with them? And that comes just back down to time and slow interactions.
Yeah, there's something going around on Facebook at the moment with a greyhound and a gentleman, and the greyhound was taking off after a deer, and he managed to recall the dog, and he pulled out like a Kong rope almost.
Yep.
And the dog totally forgot about the deer that he was chasing and was just started to play with that. I was just amazed that can happen. So obviously they can be very well trained. It's just trying to find the right thing
that they are motivated for. Yeah. We can condition those motivations and create more positive associations with them. But it's very slow process depending on the greyhound. And the more time and effort you put into it, the better they will be at it.
Yeah.
And you can change that as if, yes, there's a drive to chase something and chase it down. Doesn't mean they're going to kill it. It just means their motivation is to chase and track. The outcome afterwards is completely different. Most people are I guess, cautious about the predatory behavior side of things with greyhounds when it's mostly motivation to chase. The movement.
Yes.
Their outcome afterwards is nothing to do with the impact of dissecting and consuming.
No, they're in the moment.
They're in the moment.
And they're not even thinking about the result or the...
Correct.
Yeah.
And yes, there are signs of behavioural problems with predatory behaviour, but it's very minimum. There's a small percentage of it. Yeah. Most of it's just movement and motivation to move and chase.
I'm glad you clarified that.
And let's face it, any other breed could get hold of something and they will eat it or chew it, or it's just the fact that
there's big myths about greyhounds. This is, I reckon we could do 3 podcasts.
I know, it's been great.
But we are going to have to wrap it up. Future-proof training, where do people, what's the best way to, if they need your services?
So they can go to futureproofdogs.com.au, and we run general training, behaviour therapy for complex behavioural cases, and we also have a daycare if a greyhound is suitable. We have a few greyhounds in our daycare. If there's any issues that you have, we're more than happy to discuss it. We have a few trainers that can help, and if it's greyhounds that you need help with, we can help you with those as well.
Yeah, sounds like Mel. I would trust Bunny or Bo.
Absolutely.
Luckily,
and Tara's brilliant too.
Tara's excellent. She's better than me.
I'm the one in the household that needs some behaviour modification. The 2 houndies are perfect. So yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. Mel's just been fangirling the whole time. Really.
I love your insight, but just to have somebody with so much experience as yourself, not only in greyhounds but also in the actual work that you've done, the stats and everything. It's been great.
And such a deep enthusiasm I'm sensing. It's not just a cognitive, which is really intense on that level, but I just feel that you feel it as well, which is,
And that's probably the thing that I've always strived to do is you can learn so much on the knowledge aspect and understand the theoretical components and all that kind of jazz, but it's the practical application and the ability to change the paradigm and create positive animal welfare rather than just let things go on as they were going on. And I've always, when I came over to WA, it was probably the first thing that I wanted is just to make sure that it was the animal welfare was there, the ethics was there on that front, and we can create change, and there's a standard that we need to maintain. If we're not maintaining that standard, then we have a problem. And we need to maintain that standard for the animal itself.
Because we have to speak on their behalf and act on their behalf.
Correct, and that's on a personal aspect with each individual and their animal, but also on a professional aspect and an industry aspect. And whether that's government side of things or the veterinary side of things or even dog trainers or anyone else in the industry, it's making sure that we have a standard of care and we need to maintain those ethics and everything's done to the T and everything is done correctly.
Yeah, brilliant. And I can tell your heart's in it, which is just lovely for us. So thank you so much for your time today. I think we'll have to have you back on, Liam.
I know.
There's so much more we can talk about.
Write down your questions.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks again.
All good. Pleasure.
Mel, yet again, what can I say? The people you bring onto this podcast educate me, so well informed, a depth of knowledge, but also just a nice fellow with his heart in the right place.
I have to be honest and tell you, I think he's one of my favourite guests.
Really?
Yeah, just because I love the fact that it's scientifically backed. It comes from evidence-based, but then you can see that there is a love for it.
Yeah, there's a real passion, isn't it?
Yeah, and hearing the funny things about the way our greyhounds, who they are and the way that they are as a breed. Like we all say it, those of us in the cold, talk about their characteristics and that, but to hear a behaviourist actually say,
you're right. science says these dogs are
what
weird.
Was it? It's their repertoire.
Yeah,
I love that.
Repertoire.
They have a nutty repertoire.
Yeah.
It's like a rocky road.
Is that what it is? Yeah, a nutty repertoire. I'm going to have him back on, Liam.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Yep.
He had so much. We had a chat after the interview finished, and there's 3 more freaking podcasts in there, mate.
And maybe we could do one. We will ask him, so don't get emailing us yet, but we might ask our listeners to put in some questions, and maybe Liam could chat about those.
He could. He's a font of knowledge, mate.
Yes. And
he's
he speaks.
an absolute font of knowledge.
Yeah, and he speaks really well. He's interesting. Yeah.
He's awesome. Thanks, Liam. Thank you for listening also, everyone, to our 60th goddamn episode. Let's hope, Mel, that we don't make it to 100. We've got the inquiry happening this year. Let's get the ball rolling on that. Let's get the ball rolling, hopefully on a phase out. If not, let's find a way to
have independent oversight at minimum.
And real welfare and safety, so we don't have to keep...
There is no real safety
seeing
in
these
racing.
bloody dogs get hurt and killed so we can chuck a bet on them, because ultimately what we want to do, Mel, is release the hounds.